I think he is the most consistent player in the world. I think he is the rock of the team he plays for because he is ever dependable.
Dream taps and goes quick. Coldzera's quicker. Gets a second as well as the bomb will go down and follows it up. They're all lining up. Coldzera with an ace.
He's a very well-rounded, complete player.
Now one more to go. He's going to go for Nitro in the full.
He keeps his cool. Just a monster.
Coldzera finds the headshot. Unbelievable.
Relentless in his pursuit for more kills. Oh my god!
Be able to see through. Because it looked like Snacks was ready for him to walk in. What the hell was that from Cold?
Great place to watch, great player to learn from as well. And he's only 23 years old, which is kind of ridiculous.
Skadoodle turns back. Coldzera, what a transfer!
As does Nat fly over towards the plateau. Tons of trades coming in here.
Wow.
But Coldzera knows all the angles. Goodbye, Mixwell. Sit down, Optic.
To me, he's the Brazilian Terminator.
He's gonna get, oh, okay.
His team a third map here.
He's a genius though, he knows he can do this. Losing is not an option. Oh, Coldzera's an animal, isn't he?
Cold in the corner, so much trouble. They're trying to see if they can hunt him down. Oh my god! Coldzera! Are you kidding me? At least Bialy gets a kill, but Cold, that's a sick shot. Taz is going to be going down. Cold is so hungry right now.
Just a shot there on towards the wheel, but it's a hell of a shot to Android. Now it's a 1 versus 1. Wow! Okay, Coldzera.
He's holding the ankle, he's gonna have to flick up, and he gets it. That is so fast, and a second one.
Dennis is spamming up through the bench, leaving Coldzera in a 1-on-4. There's the first. Looking for a second, he connects it. Oh, and he gets a third as well. Surely he's not gonna pull this one off. Oh, Coldzera! The man, the myth, the beast!
What is going on right now? How does he do this? Cold is saving Luminosity with the
Marcelo Coldzera David is one of the best Counter-Strike global offensive players to ever live. But before Luminosity Gaming's Fur recruited him to help his Brazilian team reach the top of the CSGO world, Coldzera was a student of the game. Cold's brother Rafael taught him how to play Counter-Strike early on in the competitive scene's development. Rafael's friends would tease Cold about not being very good, fueling his desire to improve.
Ele era horrível, a gente ainda até brincava, falei, meu, você não nasceu pra esse jogo, para de jogar isso aí, você é horrível. E daqui a pouco ele começava a treinar, jogava de manhã, jogava à noite, e aí de uma hora pra outra ele parou de viver, vamos dizer.
Gaming was a huge part of Cold's life, but he had to hide it from his parents, who feared his relationship with the game had gone too far. Cold's father started a broom manufacturing company out of his garage that had expanded and become the family business that Cold was expected to take over. And initially, his father forbade him from leaving Brazil to compete with Luminosity in North America. But one phone call from Fallen, the godfather of Brazilian Counter-Strike, changed everything.
Fallen me falou uma coisa, que a chance dele era 1 em 1 milhão. Magoou o coração da gente. E eu falei pro meu filho, como pai eu não deixaria você ir, tá? Mas como amigo, né? Eu acredito que você tem que buscar o teu sonho.
With his father's blessing, the young rifler was finally off to the United States. Early in 2015, Luminosity was climbing the ranks of the Counter-Strike world faster than any Brazilian team in the game's history. And when Coldzera joined the team in July, they finally secured the firepower they needed to compete with the best. Coldzera's LAN debut with Luminosity would come at ESL 1 Cologne 2015.
Of course, we are looking at Luminosity, their roster for you. Fallen Steel, Fur, Bolt, and the new man, Coldzera, as he's going to be kind of being that new factor for them. Intrigued to see how much he can do, and I mean, for me, he's that unknown factor for both us, but also for his opponents.
Despite coming into the event with little expected of them, Luminosity fought their way out of groups.
Fallen's going to now be stuck in the corner, but he can fight his way out of this. We've seen it before, we've seen it happen time and time again, but it's Cold. 3 kills back to back. He doesn't need to get the other, because let's bear in mind, there's 3 players still standing, and it's Steel, and that is a brilliant half coming in for Luminosity. He's made it there. The bomb could go down any second, but Blade is not done. He wants his team to make it further, but no, Fallen and Fur do what's required, and now just Davkos alive. It's Luminosity 1 kill away, but there it is. Fur just pins Davkos down, and Luminosity, after such a tough route, after such a tough game, finally make it through.
But in the quarterfinals, they found themselves matched up against the tournament favorites, Fnatic. While Luminosity pushed the European juggernaut to their limit, Fnatic ultimately proved to be too great of an obstacle for the Brazilians to overcome.
Just needs to give himself a moment, a breather. Oh, that's the shot he needed to land. They know his position. They're going to try and brush him down. He needs to switch to pistol. They're going to get him. Fnatic will take it. They will get a defuse. It's 16-14 Fnatic. They move through to face Virtus Pro in the semi-finals. Well, we have to say that Luminosity, they should go home with heads held high and a very good outlook for the future.
Over the next few months, Coldzera settled into Luminosity and began to show exactly why Fallen had been set on him joining the team.
Really sick angle here, and he's gonna just pop Shroud straight away. There's 2 more players on the bomb side itself, so with the boost here, Luminosity, they're actually looking fantastic. They're gonna send the top frag at Cold straight, and he's gonna take down Freakazoid as well. They don't even know what's hitting them at this point. Switches to the CZ, completely annihilates nothing, and the defuse can come in here now. Skadoodle is being handled by Steel, and that was absolutely beautiful. 4K from Cold. I think he's on 23 kills right now. This guy is having a mental first half.
Cold, widely regarded as probably the best player coming out of Brazil right now.
It often shuts itself down, but Cold does find these bombs going to approach from the same angle up past Catwalk. And Cold scores back to the CT spawn, so they will get this bomb plant left in a 2-on-2. And they picked up the FAMAS on Guardian as well. Is that going to be enough to push it over the edge? Cold, great jump shot. Never mind, the FAMAS down already as he hits him from elevator. And they know Edward's out toward long, so as such, they're putting the last player in that position to try and push through the long doors. Edward does do damage on the Cold. Oh, he hit Fallen. What a brilliant shot, and it's 1 HP, but Cold, even better with the MP7.
How many jump shots did he get in one round of the MP7? One towards short, one on the bomb site, and finishes the player off in the pit as well. That's absolutely amazing from Coldzera. What a game has this been? Going down to a 5-on-3 situation, manages to pull it off as well.
While Luminosity would be knocked out in the quarterfinals of DreamHack Cluj-Napoca, it was undeniable that the team had made significant strides in 2015. However, it was clear that they needed some extra star power to pair with Coldzera if they were to contend for a major title. So prior to DreamHack Leipzig, Taco and FNX were brought in. With Fallen as their primary opper, Cold their secondary op and primary fragger, and Taco, FNX, and Furs added fragging power, the classic Luminosity lineup we've come to know today had assembled, and they took the tournament by storm.
I just don't know like how long it's gonna take him. Nice spray down from Cold though.
Cold is close. He's got FNX there, and now Fallen is showing up with the AWP as the Danes try and make one last attempt to actually extend this game. Good headshot from FNX, but they've already lost one. FNX getting a second one. Bomb has gone down, but that's... Oh, they line up FNX! He gets 4 kills, and now Pimp is left. Could it be another ace in this one game for FNX? That would be nuts. Pimp is looking for it. FNX, he gets it. It's a round where Luminosity, FaZe might be losing more members than they want to, but oh, look at this Cold actually dodging the Molotov, goes for the kill. He gets it on Michael Ellie, and then it could get really ugly. Cold coming around the corner. He shuts down AC, and now it's on Jacob. He's very low on health. That bomb, they can still defuse it even without the kit right now. Jacob, he's going to go for it. He's got to be careful getting shot in the back any second. And he goes down, and that defuse already happening. Oh, no. 14 seconds, that bomb plant not coming through. They go for the boost, and Sip is going to be gone. Now it's all Cajun. He fakes it once, go for the spray. He's going to go down, and there it is. Luminosity 2-0 versus Astralis.
Luminosity made it all the way to the grand finals, where, again, they would face Na'Vi in a close series.
Seized, making his way around the train, trying to see if he can maybe catch out Fallen. He's not got the health for it. Fallen has to hit the shot immediately. He's trying to predict it. Seized. Is he gonna see it? Fallen. Oh, that's the shot! He gets all 3 kills!
He's there to back him, and Edward, he's gonna catch some punching through the smoke. This is it, Navi's moment.
Oh, Cold getting a kill on Flamey. Edward going through, and he's gonna get that spray down. Taco alone in a 1 versus 3 comes charging through. What else can he do? He goes down. Na'Vi, they win train 19-16.
To Taco, the man who annihilated Guardian, and there you go. Flamey gets the timing right. He gets the second one as well. And now the last man is on the plateau. This is it, the moment for Na'Vi. Can they actually lock it out? There's the spray. Flamey with the triple, and Na'Vi will be the DreamHack Leipzig champions.
In the end, Na'Vi would prevail, and while Luminosity were disappointed to have lost, their impressive performance signaled better things to come. Individually, Cold had played like a man possessed, and it was clear that the team would be contenders at the upcoming Columbus Major. and contend they did. LG swept both Mouse Sports and Ninjas in Pajamas in the group stage to make it to the top 8. Once they got to the bracket stage, it was Coldzera's time to prove himself against the best in the world. But after bringing their quarterfinal opponent Virtus Pro to match point on cash, Luminosity began to falter.
For a really fast execute here, Snacks on the other side, flashbang goes up, they're gonna be all around the corner, he's got the egg, but this is a very open position, he sprays down one and a second two, finally the reply, but Neo's there, getting a double of his own, and they will lock Luminosity out of this round. What a mad position, it's gonna be Pasha taking down Fallen. That means they end up winning it, they're really learning from the mistakes. Oh, what a shot! Coldzera trying to duck in behind that box, and Snacks just catching him mid-air. What a performance on the Polish team. They definitely were in a slump, but now they seem to have somehow rooted themselves out of it. There's a headshot. Virtus Pro, they win cash, 19-17.
Coldzera and Luminosity found themselves down a map and facing another premature tournament departure. But this time, the Brazilians were up for the task.
So now they need to get off of it, and Cold, he smokes himself out of position, and so now they actually have no way of dealing with him. He needs to make the mistake and overstep himself.
He's just cold as ice in the back line, peeks out at the perfect time, gonna be able to kill. Taz very low on health and in a 1-on-5, can't even get the kill. Fourth round is a flawless one here for the Brazilian side.
Still not looking too hot here for Virtus Pro.
I mean, at least Bialy gets a kill, but Cold, that's a sick shot. Taz is going to be going down. Cold is so hungry right now. He's going to get the third as well. He has absolutely no fear or no respect for Virtus Pro there. He just takes all the peaks. 14-0-3 with Coldzera, just absolutely mad carrying the Brazilian side. Pasha sneaking up, he's got a good position, he's making it out as well, but he goes down. Coldzera is there. It's gone horribly wrong, hasn't it? It is going to be 9-3 here, and Coldzera picking up Neo. It's all on Taz, and there's nothing that he can really do at this point. Cold just on the hunt, getting the double kill, making it 10-3. Playing it against VP. Pasha going down. Another double for Coldzera, looking for a bit more. It's going to be FNX to steal that kill. Cold and FNX top fragging, everything riding on Taco here. They almost lined up. He gets the one spray in, turns around for it. Second kill, and there it is. The grenade! Taz is gone, and Luminosity are in the semis of a major tournament.
After coming back to take 2 straight maps off one of the best teams in the world, Luminosity moved on to face Team Liquid in the semifinals. Liquid were looking to make CSGO history by becoming the first NA major champs with a star-studded lineup of their own. And at first, the Brazilian squad looked overmatched.
This is not the Luminosity who won the hearts of fans over the recent weeks and months. This is a ghost.
I mean, what we saw on the A-bomb site there. Guess that's lost that round. That round's over then. Look at this simple double or Fallen and Cold. They need the big guns to come out. Big pressure on the big players of Luminosity. But can they deliver the big result that they need to stay here?
But when Luminosity needed it most, Cold put the team on his back with what will go down as one of the most memorable plays in CSGO's storied history.
Here he comes once again. The first base is a Dren. He's going to hit the ground there as Cold. Oh, what? A jumping double from Cold! What is going on right now? How does he do this? Cold has saved Luminosity with the all play. Unthinkable scenes there on the B apartments. They needed a huge play, but that was something I'm never going to see ever again.
I have no words to describe. Oh my. Holy. Okay.
A lot has been said about the probability of landing a shot like this. A double headshot with the op while leaping. But what can't be overlooked is that he landed it when his team had their backs against the wall in the semifinals of a major, and it completely changed the momentum of the series.
He's the man you want in this position, but 1 versus 3. This is for everything. This is for the map right now. Eco making its way around the smoke. With a spam, he will spot Taco, but that's it. Luminosity with a comeback from 15-10. An amazing play from Cold with the AWP all the way back into overtime, into a victory.
Off the back of Cold's spectacular play, Luminosity cast aside both Liquid and their history of top 8 busts, earning a shot at redemption against Na'Vi in another grand final. This time, they made quick work of the Ukrainian powerhouse to become the first non-European team to ever win a major.
And now it is a 1-on-2. Taco looking to see if he can close it out here and win it for the Brazilians. It's going to be a big turnaround there. Hits the headshot on Sousa. Now it's a 1-on-1. Guardian versus Taco. It may just be destined to be. And it's Luminosity winning their first major championship.
That win was not only huge for the Brazilian squad, but for the entire CS world as well. It was now clear that it was possible to confront the European gods of Counter-Strike at the major level and come out unscathed. And it came as no surprise to anyone when Coldzera was named the tournament's MVP.
We're only talking about like 6 or 7 months, and this guy is now in the position to be the MVP of a World Championship tournament. And they really have built the game off his back in terms of fragging.
Prior to Columbus, Luminosity were certainly on a hot streak, but this win placed them among the top teams in the world and etched their names into CS history. Over the next few months, the team went on to win 4 consecutive LAN events, including wins at both DreamHack Austin and the ESL Pro League Season 3 finals. Luminosity's next shot at a major championship would be at ESL 1 Cologne. But while they should have been focused on winning back-to-back majors, the team was dealing with distractions outside of the game. Just days before the Columbus major, Luminosity's roster and coaching staff had signed contracts to move from Luminosity to SK Gaming. But the team started to regret their decision after winning in Columbus, and were locked into a back and forth between the two organizations. The news that Coldzera and his teammates were in the midst of a contractual dispute dominated headlines, even with ESL 1 Cologne around the corner.
The problem is the stress of all this shit that's gone on, and people maybe looking down on them, or they themselves being conflicted if they didn't necessarily want things to work out this way. That's what concerns me, because I don't want to see them now be under so much pressure because of that they tilt away the next major.
After the dust had finally settled, Coldzera and company walked into the LANXS Arena under the SK Gaming banner. SK kicked off the tournament by beating both FaZe Clan and G2 Esports in the group stage, before dispatching Flipside Tactics and Virtus Pro in the quarter and semifinals.
Flash on Coldzera, that actually was misthrown from his teammate, but there it is, Taco's closed it, and SK, the defending champions, will return to the finals.
The stage was set for SK to meet Team Liquid in the grand finals, marking the first time that 2 non-European teams competed for a major title. And with Simple and Coldzera both playing outstanding CS, it was set to be a grand final to remember.
For SK, this round was a sure thing, but they slowed down. I think they even failed the Molotov. Good kill from Coldzera, but still only 28 seconds here. They need to move in and get this bomb plant home. And Hiko, I don't think anyone has even seen him. They don't know where he is right now. A lot of damage being put into Coldzera as well. 19 seconds, and now finally SK are gonna man up and try and see if they can get out here. Hiko picking up a kill, and it's all down to Coldzera. 10 seconds, jumping back onto the side. He has to stick the plant. He can't even fake it, and actually he's going to be successful in that. Now the Deagle goes for the fight, takes out Hiko, and now it's a one-on-one. Orb versus Orb, but JDM goes down. Coldzera, that's the quad kill, and SK going to pick up a very, very tight round. Coldzera is going to realize, wait a minute, they're all coming down. Ivy, he's looking at the exact perfect spot. Takes one, takes two, and a third one coming through as well, and he's going to be going down. Coldzera eating every single member of Liquid coming through the back lines, and now it's a 2-on-2, and make that a 1-on-2. JDM entirely alone here, trying to see if he can hold on to it. Taco and Coldzera still alive on the other side, and Liquid haven't won many of these clutch rounds, but this time they're gonna have to. Otherwise, SK are gonna be back into it, and of course, Coldzera picking up the kill. He's at 11 overall. Makes a lot of sense. Simple now alone on the side. Backup is coming, and Taco being caught in an uncomfortable position ends up going down for ready and waiting, and no kind of backup possible here. Hiko gonna fall as well. It is match and map and tournament point here for SK. Now it's just all in the details. Easy for SK to pick it up here. Trying to walk through the smoke, but it's just not going to happen. SK Gaming, second major championship in a row. They are your winners.
They were the best team in the world, and Coldzera, once again the MVP of the tournament, was the undisputed king of Counter-Strike. Fallen, Coldzera, and the rest of SK Gaming did what once felt impossible. They built a team from the ground up, and they made their game work. And now it wasn't Virtus Pro, Fnatic, or Na'Vi who were the team to beat heading into 2017. It was 5 Brazilian players.
The SK era is officially here.
But even as they stood atop the Counter-Strike world, SK Gaming were not immune to conflict outside of the game. Just prior to the beginning of the 2017 season, the team kicked FNX. Rumors swirled that he was removed because of internal issues. But all that most CSGO fans saw was that SK's 2 major winning core was now without one of its top performers. Fox stepped in to take FNX's place just in time for the ELEAGUE major in Atlanta. But the pressure fell on Coldzera to remind everyone who the tournament favorites were.
He is well out of position.
But at least AZ knows 100% that Cold has to be on the bomb site planting the bomb right now. And so, will he realize, oh, gun not out, but he realizes that Cold was close enough to take the engagement, holding the angle, just creeping. Who's going to be first to get the first bullets off? It's going to be Cold who takes the kill. Important, incredibly crucial round.
One of them has already been used, and the other one is never going to be thrown by Zero. So Sticko and Dead Fox, now just Dead Fox left, trying his best. He's going to get the headshot at least, so bit of a smile for him. Steals an AK. I don't think he's going to get to keep it through this round. Coldzera is coming for him. Don't see them coming back from this one, SK. The bomb is down, but the Oh, what? Coldzera right through the smoke.
While SK's quest for a 3rd consecutive major title would ultimately end at the hands of Virtus Pro, it hadn't stopped Cold from showing why he was the best player in the world. In the wake of Atlanta, the team brought in Phelps as the long-term replacement for FNX, and they regained their form heading into the PGL Major in Krakow. At the event, SK went 3-1 through the group stage and found themselves in the top 8 of yet another major. But this time, SK Gaming were ousted by Astralis in the quarterfinals.
Here, it's a 2 versus 5 to try and keep SK Gaming alive in this tournament, or put Astralis right in the semi-final. And Coldzera and Fallen trying to see if they can coordinate this. The grenades are coming in, there's 30 seconds, and they're boxed in. They can't even go back here. Fallen wants a peek from somebody, anybody. There's Device. He gets one, still a 2-on-4, and there's 20 seconds. Now Fallen is alone in a 1 versus 4. He's gonna get one more kill, but there's only 17 seconds. He can't get this bomb part down. Astralis will have done it. They're in the semi-finals, 16-6.
The disappointing exit marked the first time that the Brazilian squad had missed out on a top 4 appearance since Columbus in 2016. By the end of 2017, SK Gaming and Coldzera had a lot to reflect on. Toward the end of the year, the world of CS was in flux. The game was trending towards super teams, and organizations were looking to surround their stars with the best talent in the hopes of racking up major titles. It was time to see if SK's lineup could keep up in this new era. And at ESL Pro League Season 6 Finals, SK Gaming proved that they could still hang with the scene's best.
But Kerrigan still has the kill. They're going to get on this immediately as well. Kerrigan has one of the kids. Cold, he's held off from 4. They've got to get to Kerrigan now. Oh, they just barely have done it. Fallen gets the kill. Cold was there if not, and he goes back out and finds Olaf in the 1-on-1. Down to Guardian again to save them. He goes aggressive. It's Taco. He still has a slight chance. A smoke deployed by the terrorists actually gives him a chance to funnel in, but Bolt says no. And SK in 3!
SK were no longer the untouchable team that the community thought they were in 2016. But on the big stage, Coldzera slammed the door shut on rising claims that Nico had surpassed him as CSGO's apex predator.
He's planted potentially for him, and they're not really sure which position he's going to be in. He's found the diffuser as well. It's Kerrigan down. Nico's got a kit, but he's got to contend with the fact that Cold now has the advantage. They're both mid-30s on HP, and Cold is going to change it to get the headshot and close it in fashion. If you wanted a duel between Nico and Cold, you got it, and Cold comes out on top.
As 2018 began, the ELEAGUE Boston Major was the next chance for SK to reclaim their title as the preeminent team in CSGO. But unfortunately for Coldzera, SK would not make history again. Instead, the Brazilians would become a footnote in Cloud9's own historic achievement as the first ever American team to win a major.
Taco can't do anything. The pandemonium is 16 rounds, and Cloud9 are in the grand finals of a major tournament. Nobody saw this coming.
SK brought the same core lineup that had worked for them forever, but this time, it simply wasn't good enough. Since the major, SK Gaming have looked worse than they ever have, with the team having undergone yet another roster transition. But as question marks surround SK Gaming for the first time in years, Coldzera remains unquestionable. He was ranked the top player in the world for the second straight year by HLTV in 2017. And even as SK has faltered at the start of 2018, he's still shown that he is superhuman.
Coldzera. Who else? He is left in the clutch in 1v3 with a mission. But is it mission impossible? About to find out. Coldzera making his way in. Oh, that's a snap and a half. Hold again. Ooh, Cole gets himself another one.
B to get him to plant towards connector. JW. Oh, he's selling a trap Coldzera. He's on the bomb now, holding it. 2 seconds, 1 second.
Oh!
Coldzera with a ridiculous clutch. And he's like, come on, man, try me. Do you know who I am?
There's no doubt that esports move fast. A team or player can go from best in the world to mediocre in months. But so far in his career, Coldzera is one of a handful of Counter-Strike players ever that always shows up. From the moment his father got off the phone with Fallen, Coldzera has been stalking his prey.
He's got Cold walking in next. Oh my goodness!
Dropping jaws with displays of unbelievable skill.
Last time this happened, it was cut way too close. Oh, what?
Producing awe-inspiring clutches when his team is behind.
All down to Coldzera. 14 HP, but forget that because it is Coldzera. He tries to get the shot out there. He's going to pinch him in. He's got a leash. Low HP as he goes back in with the up. And that is why Cold is the best in the world.
A generational talent willing to make sacrifices to win championships.
The SK era is officially here.
One of the most complete and consistent players Counter-Strike has ever seen.
Here he comes once again. The first base is a Dren. He's going to hit the ground there as Cold. Oh, what? A jumping double from Cold. What is going on right now? How does he do this?
No drama, no trash talk, and no complications. Just kill after kill.
He's the best player in the world, James. That's who he is.
Thanks for watching. If you want more great content just like this, be sure to hit the subscribe button.